Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today it's a little late, but I'm gonna do what I read in January. So I read 4 books. They're right here. And I'm just gonna do like a short little review on each book and what I liked and didn't like about the books. I would say 4 books is quite a lot for me in a month. I know people read a lot more, but I had almost all of January off. I didn't come back to New York until the 27th of January. So I had a lot of time to read. So I feel like my goal this year was 12 books, 1 book a month, but I read 4. So I would say I'm pretty good right now on my goal. So the first book I read in January is Someone Who Will Love You in All Your Damaged Glory. I actually started this in December, but I only got like 5 pages in, and then I switched to another book because I wanted to read it at the beginning of the year. So I restarted it. I hadn't really heard much about it. I had seen a lot of people recommend it, but I didn't really know what it consisted of. But to give a short like synopsis, it's a bunch of different chapters, all with the central theme of exploring love and relationships. And it's not always with another person, it's not always romantic, but I really did enjoy this a lot. There were a few stories, a few chapters that I didn't quite get the metaphor, or like they weren't my favorite, but for the most part I did really enjoy this. I believe I rated it 4 stars, but in hindsight I think I would give it a 3.5, just because there were stories that I didn't quite connect with, but for the most part I did enjoy. I mean, there were parts of this book where it was really funny and really weird and like surprising and then heartbreaking, and it just had so many elements of love that were explored, and I think that is what I really enjoyed the most about it. I think my personal favorite chapter were Rules for Taboo. It just like explained the word as the rule of taboo, and I thought it was very clever. I think my favorite was If Your Word is Park. That one was really good, and then it had the title of the book in it. I also really liked the chapter right after that, Up and Comers. Those were probably some of my favorites. I'm not too certain on which other ones I liked. Since I feel like it was so long ago, it was the first week of January, that I could go back and look at my journal and see what my entry was, but I did really enjoy this. I rated it a 3.5 stars. On Goodreads it's a 4 because you can't rate things half stars on Goodreads. So I really did really like this, but it wasn't, if I'm gonna rank my books, it wasn't my favorite of the month. The next book I read, which was probably my favorite of the month, was Bunny by Mona Awad. I feel like I was so late to this book. I feel like everyone has already read it and I'm just like the last person on earth. But I think this is like what really made me so interested in literary fiction. I think she writes so hauntingly beautiful, and it's so creepy, but it's so good. And there are parts of the book where I was confused, but not in a way where I wasn't understanding it. I was just confused with Samantha and what she was thinking and how she got so wrapped up in this cult. And I think that if you like a book that is weird and cult-like and keeps you interested in with every sentence that she writes, then you would love this. I'm really intrigued now to read some of Mona Awad's other books. Basically, this book follows a girl. Our main character, Samantha, is in grad school, and there's basically this clique on campus that they all call each other Bunny, and she's always known about them, but she's never really actually known about them until one day she gets invited to one of their smut salons, as they like to call it. And at first she's really confused and a bit kind of pulled back, but she quickly gets trapped in this cult. Throughout this, we see her friend, her best friend, Ava, being in and out of her life. Throughout the book, she really cares about Ava, but she feels she is so enthralled in this cult that she kind of loses sight of her best friend. There are a lot of theories going around the internet of whether Samantha is schizophrenic, or are these certain things that we're seeing real, or just her imagination. What does each thing mean and everything? And I mean, it's really, really, really good, and I really think that if you want to maybe start getting into literary fiction, that this is a good way to start, because it'll probably make you fall in love with literary fiction. And it's weird and creepy, and the girls are weird that they all call each other Bunny. There's a part of a book, which I think I talked about in my last video, but a part of the book, Samantha starts referring to herself as Bunny, and whenever she has a thought, she starts referring to herself as we. So like, we felt this, or we feel this. It was just such a switch of her talking about herself and then referring to herself as Bunny, and everyone else as Bunny, and then it would get confusing when she was like, well, Bunny said this and Bunny said that. And she has little like characteristics for each bunny, but we don't actually like get to know their names until a little bit further on in the book. It was very good, and I think I rated this 5 stars. I mean, if I didn't, I rated 5 stars because I read it very quickly and was very interested the entire time. The next book I read was The Woman Destroyed by Simone de Beauvoir. I really liked this. I liked that we had 3 stories all about women in sort of like an existential crisis. Simone de Beauvoir is a philosopher who studied existential philosophy. So each story follows a different woman who is basically going through some form of crisis in their life, whether it's family or it's themselves, or one woman's going through some trouble with the book that she's writing. It's really good. I think because it's a translated book, and because I've never read anything, I don't think as deep and intellectual as this book, I think there were some parts of it where I felt like stupid because I wasn't always getting it. But I do think that's like my fault and definitely not her fault. I think the writing was beautiful. I think that with every sentence there, it felt meaningful. The final story, which is the longest one, called The Woman Destroyed, was probably my favorite. I really liked reading about women that were older because all of the women were middle-aged, as I gathered, with older children or more experience, like life experience. And I think that that's really interesting because I feel like most books I read, the main characters are younger or more my age or at the oldest in their 30s. And I think it's really beautiful almost to read about existential crisis at other ages, because sometimes we feel like we're so young and we're going through all of this, but people go through it their entire life, and reading it from a woman's perspective again is really beautiful. One thing that I had underlined is just a short quote. It was in the first story, and it says, "It is so tiring to hate someone you love." And I thought that was just very beautiful. I think anyone can relate to that, how it can feel so hard to be angry, or it's so tiring to hate, which is such a strong word, but to hate someone that you feel so deeply about. So I think overall that this book was great. I think I gave it 4 stars. It was beautiful. I feel like I need to do more research on existential philosophy to really like feel like I connected with this, but I did really enjoy it. The last book I read in January was Sex and Rage by Eve Babbitt's. This is the second Eve Babbitt's book I've read. The first book was Black Swans. If I had to choose between the 2 stories that I've read by Eve Babbitt, I think I liked this one more. Eve Babbitt writes so strongly about California, and while that's so great, I cannot connect to California. It's hard to picture it. like whenever a writer writes about New York City, like I can feel it, like it just like connects to me more. But like I don't know what Los Angeles looks like. Like I know what it looks like, but I've never been there. And she writes so well that I can almost picture it, but I wish I connected more to it. So that's why I didn't love Black Swans as much as I liked this one. But I did really like the story of this, because our main character was going the first half of the story she spent in Los Angeles, and the second half she spent in New York City. And she is a writer, and she is struggling with her own internalized issues, a bit of alcoholism. A lot of things focus around a certain guy, and it's not a love story by any means. She doesn't really go into details about love, but I do think that as a woman, like a lot of people feel that like sometimes like their life is revolving around a man, and that they're feeling held back. And I think that's what our main character Jacaranda felt. A lot of the reviews that I read about this book was like no sex, no rage. And while yes, there wasn't any in the book, I don't think that was the purpose. I think whatever you feel towards Jacaranda, which is our main character, she is internally struggling with it, and while we can see it because we're reading it, she can't see it. And I think it's causing the reader a certain amount of rage, and so I think that's just like my takeaway from it. I thought the book was really well written. I love Eve Babbitt and I want to get more into her. That is what I read this month. I know this is really late, and I just haven't filmed it. I don't know, I've been procrastinating it, but I really like talking about books. So if you like this content, then let me know, because I will continue it for February, because I'm reading short books in February. Because February is a short month, I thought I would read some short books, because you should never underestimate a short novel. If you want to check out some more of my other content, I do post on Goodreads, but not always. I don't always write a review, but I kind of want to start so I can just like jog my memory when I'm filming these. But I would definitely say my favorite book from the month was Bunny. I really liked it. I'm glad I picked it up. I've had it on my shelf for a few months now, so I'm glad I have it. Excited to finish my February books and get back to you guys. Thanks for watching. If you want to see more of me, I do have an Instagram and a TikTok that I post occasionally. But thanks for watching.